what purpose does the gentleman from Florida seek recognition?
Mr. Chair, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 2, printed in House Report number 118-308, offered by Mr. Mills of Florida.
Pursuant to House Resolution 922, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Mills, and a member opposed will each control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment prohibits schools from participating in the school lunch program under the Act from purchasing or offering milk produced by Chinese state-owned enterprises that may be operating here within the United States or elsewhere. As many of us know, in 2008, melamine scandal exposed systemic corruption and disregard for the safety standards within China's own dairy industry. This scandal resulted in the death of 6 infants and sickened thousands more, highlighting the devastating consequences of lax regulations and unethical practices. The evidence is clear. These enterprises pose a serious threat to our consumers' health, our economic security, and our national interests. We can't allow CCP enterprises to export their dangerous practices to our school lunches. This is an issue maintaining American control of critical supply chains that the Chinese state-owned enterprises have no business being in our schools. Florida is one of the largest cattle producers in America, and there's no way I will allow producers in my state to be compromised by the CCP or the PRC. If we fail to act, we risk losing our family farms and jeopardizing the livelihoods of thousands of Americans. This is not about trade isolationism. It's about protecting our children in schools from unsafe products, ensuring fair competition for American producers, and safeguarding our national security. The potential consequences of inaction are simply too great for me to ignore. And the quality and safety of food that we provide to our children is paramount, and we cannot compromise on these standards. We must be vigilant about our source and production practices of the product that we are present in our educational institutions and safeguard them from adversaries who do not share our same interests. By prohibiting schools from purchasing or offering milk produced by China's state-owned enterprises operating in the United States and elsewhere, we aim to send a clear message about our commitment to health and the safety of our children. Last year, over 30 million school children relied on school lunches for their nutrition. We've seen how the CCP has approached other industries, and we cannot allow such an important sector to become vulnerable at a time of crisis. Therefore, I urge you to join me in preventing the CCP-supported entities from infiltrating school lunches and a key American supply chain. This is a necessary step to protect the health and well-being of our citizens, safeguard our economy, and defend our national interests. Let us send a clear message that we will prioritize the safety and security of our nation's school children above all else. I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. For what purpose does the gentleman for Virginia seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I claim the time in opposition.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I yield myself such time as it may consume. Mr. Chairman, nobody disputes that the dairy industry is a crucial part of domestic supply chains and provides an important economic benefit to the tune of over $753 billion to the U.S. economy. In 2022, just 5 states, California, Wisconsin, Idaho, Texas, and New York, collectively produced more than 50% of the U.S. annual milk supply. School breakfast and school lunch programs are already required to purchase domestic agricultural commodities and food products. Although exemptions exist, milk is produced in sufficient quantities in the U.S. and at competitive prices to severely restrict the ability of any school to purchase foreign-produced milk. To this end, the amendment does not fix the flaws of the underlying bill and makes no meaningful improvements to Buy American policies. We can make sure that Chinese milk is not breaching our supply chain with continued monitoring and enforcement of present law. The recent report found that Chinese seafood has been served in schools, highlighting the need for additional diligence in enforcing present law. I don't support the underlying legislation, and I oppose the amendment as being unnecessary and reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman is recognized from Florida.
Well, it's interesting, and I understand that facts, for whatever reason, seem to sink in a lot slower on the left than they do in America's party. So I'll say this once more. In 2008, melamine scandal exposed systemic corruption and disregard for complete safety by milk that was produced by the dairy products of China. So it's interesting that you say that they aren't actually weakening anything when they had infants and children to the thousands who had died and were sick by their actual produce, capabilities or incapabilities and capacity. So again, facts are a very finical thing. They are oftentimes slowly leaked in on the left. But you can't dispute that China's production of dairy has been less safe and less put under the regulations and rigorous streams that they do in American production under the FDA. With that, I go ahead and yield.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, does the gentleman yield back his time?
Gentleman yield back.
Okay. Thank you. I yield myself the balance of the time. Just to reiterate that present law requires domestic purchase, and so this is unnecessary. And if Chinese milk has gotten into the supply, we need to monitor that. It violates present law. And to suggest that we're ignoring science, the underlying bill is ignore science. That's the purpose of the underlying bill. So I would hope that we would reject the amendment and reject the underlying bill, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Florida. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.